Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Munatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Munatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai, Go Pramanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 5th chapter, today's text number 54. Yadacharya Paravrito Griha Medhiya Karmaso Vayasya Balakes Tatra Sopa Huta Krita Sane Yadacharya Paravrito Griha Medhya Karmaso Vayasya Balakes Tatra Sopahuta Krita Sane Yadacharya Paravrito Griha Medhiya Karmaso Vayasya Balakes Tatra Sopahuta Krita Sana. Okay, anybody please try?
Yadacharya Paravrito Griha Mediya Karmasu Vayasya Balakaistatra Sopahuta Krita Kyanahai.
Yaracharya Paravrito Kriha Medhiya Karmasu Vayasya Balakastatra Sopa Huta Kritakshanehi.
Yadacharya Paravrito Grihamedya Karmasu Vayasya Balakastatra Sopahuta Krita Shanahi.
Okay, thank you very much. Yada, when Acharya, the teachers, Paravrita, became engaged, Griha Medya of household life, Karmasu in duties, Vayasya by his friends of the same age, Balakai boys, Tatra they, Sa he, Prahlad Maharaj, Apahuta called, Kritau Sanay obtaining an opportune moment. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When the teachers went home to attend to their household affairs, the students of the same age as Prahlad Maharaj would call him to take opportunity of leisure hours for play. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In tiffin hours, the hours when the teachers were absent from the classroom, the students called Prahlad Maharaj, wanting to play with him. As will be seen from the following verses, however, Prahlad Maharaj was not very much interested in playing. Instead, he wanted to utilize every moment for advancing in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, as indicated in this verse by the words Kritau Sanay, at the opportune moment when it was possible to preach about Krishna consciousness, Prahlad Maharaj used the time as follows. Om Gyana Timrandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumitham Yana Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Vanchakalpatrubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Revacha Patitanama Pavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasti Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so 5-year-old Prahlad, the next verses are, of course, everything is like nectar in the Bhagavatam. In the previous verse, we saw that Prahlad Maharaj rejected materialistic education. And in this verse, of course, we can see what he chose instead. Prahlad Maharaj, of course, he was just 5 years old, small child. He had his friends, and of course, he had breaks from school. Yeah, it's a little unclear to me whether this was just a lunch break or was it an evening, because the teachers went home to do their household duties. Really? There's no helper for milking. One second. So in this verse, of course, Acharya Parayatriha, when the teachers Hey, milking. Thanks, bye. Okay, Herbal. So when the teachers were absent, Grihamedya, Karmaso, busy with household duties, Payasya, Alaika, his friends were, of course, of the same age, and Prahlad Maharaj used the right moment. So, instead of Prahlad Maharaj going and playing with his classmates, as normally what kids do, Prahlad Maharaj was not interested in, just playing games that kids his age normally play. And I was trying to remember what games I used to play. There was South Africa hopscotch. There was playing catch, hide and seek. So many fun things. But here's 5-year-old Prahlad Maharaj, not interested. He is looking for opportunities to advance in his Krishna consciousness. So we see, of course, in our day-to-day lives, we can relate to this scenario that Prahlad Maharaj is in. But of course, we see around us, everybody is very, very busy in society today. So much of family responsibilities are there. There's, work. Then there's school for the kids. So everybody is, very, very busy. The real, of course, test in our Krishna consciousness is, yes, there is these normal things that, people see around us. Someone is working, someone is doing this, someone is doing that. Everybody is very busy and engaged. But Prahlad Maharaj here, he is showing the example of what one does when no one is watching. So, there's formal activities, formal times, but then there's these so-called informal moments in our day-to-day lives. And, that is the essence of where we are at in our spiritual lives. Are we looking to fill that informal moments, opportune moments, when we're not so busy with family responsibilities, work, school, so many things? Then what do we do, with that time that we have? It could be 5 minutes, could be 1 hour, could be 2 or 3 hours. Of course, we've coined this term leisure hours. And what do we do with the time? So here Prahlad Maharaj is showing by his, personal example, even though he's 5 years old, that we should not waste a moment, opportunity, but seize the moment for advancing in our Krishna consciousness. Some examples that we find ourselves in where there's, opportune moments that, we're standing in a line to go collect our passport, in the grocery store, so many things we find ourselves having this, few minutes or time on hand. Sometimes, the queues are long. You go to the Social Security office, you got a long line, lots of time. So what do we do in those moments? We have lunch breaks at work, 30 minutes, sometimes 1 hour. I think 1 hour is the norm of lunch break. What do we do in that 1 hour? Long drives. In America, we drive a lot. So when we're on a short drive or long drive, what do we do? Are we listening to lectures? Are we scrolling? Are we listening to pop songs? So this is, very, very important opportune moments that we should not waste. we see that Prahlad Maharaj, he could have, we'll read about it as the verses go by, but I don't think I've heard in anyone's class that Prahlad Maharaj was finding his friends and, condemning them, criticizing them. Prahlad Maharaj was not acting, from a superior position. Neither was he, rejecting them that, you guys are all just materialists. What do you all know about spiritual life? You all are not serious. He could have been doing all of these things. Sometimes kids have arguments as well. They, sometimes just like certain kids, and other times, don't like somebody, and they can also have the arguments. But Prahlad Maharaj was not doing any of these things. He was finding these opportune moments where he used his friendship as a bridge for having Krishna Katha or spiritual discussions. He did not be aggressive towards his friends. He didn't seem to be fanatical, although, someone can argue that the fact that he was, looking for these opportune moments to preach Krishna consciousness or advance in his own Krishna consciousness, he was using his intelligence, even at 5 years old. So the lesson we can learn from Prahlad Maharaj is that, even small moments matter in our day-to-day lives. So like I was saying earlier, that it's these opportunities. Are we chasing sense gratification, or are we using the opportunities that we have around us to make spiritual advancement? The other day I was hearing how Prabhupada was, in a lecture, Prabhupada was saying, it's so interesting that as a, living entity, as a spirit soul, we have absolutely nothing to do with the material world. Absolutely nothing. This is not our home. This is, we're just not connected to the material world. Yet, ironically, we are so attached to the material world. Of course, due to lifetimes of conditioning, this is the result, lifetime after lifetime, birth after birth, more and more we've become conditioned. And suddenly, we think that this is our natural home. But we understand that this is not our home. Our home is back in the spiritual world. We're just undergoing this material experience, which is by no means joyful, even though we're trying very, very hard to make it a joyful experience. But the sooner we realize, who am I? What am I doing here? Why am I here? And what is the purpose of this life in the material world? The better for us that we can get on our rightful spiritual journey. So did Prahlad Maharaj hate playing like kids normally do? No, and it's, clear from his activities that Prahlad Maharaj didn't hate playing. He just valued higher joy or higher enjoyment. So for us, we can try to maybe categorize our activities throughout the day into do I prefer or like or enjoy entertainment, or do I prefer or enjoy nourishment, spiritual nourishment? So in a similar way, like some of us might be discerning about, the food we eat. Is it just, I like junk food, I like, deep fried white flour, white sugar, all of these things that have very little or no food value, or do I value wholesome, nourishing Krishna prasadam? So in a similar way, we all have this choice. Do I value entertainment or spiritual nourishment? And we see from Prahlad Maharaj's example, he was not like a young evangelist preacher, looking to preach to big crowds. He was doing his part according to time, place, circumstance. And, he was with his friends, he would, speak Krishna consciousness. And we can see that, we all have this opportunity as well, that, for those of us that are not big preachers, do not have some big position in the society, what matters is, on a daily basis, in our environments, the friends we have, the things we speak about in these not so formal environments, when we relaxed after work at home, we have friends and family come over, what is our behavior? What is our speech during those times? What are we reaching for? What are we looking for? So we have to make a plan for our own day-to-day lives. Like we were mentioning earlier, we don't want to become fanatical that, if a work colleague comes over, then, all we want to do is open a Bhagavatam verse and read the verse and repeat the verse and try to get, our friends' input. But still, I think all of us have this opportunity in some way or the other, just by the way we carry ourselves, even in the work environment, to demonstrate that, there is something higher going on in life without being fanatical. These days, of course, we see that society today is in this mode of, constant distraction. Of course, social media over the last decade has, exponentially ramped up the propaganda. And so we find, people becoming more like zombies, needing, some sort of constant distraction in their lives. I think I might have given this example previously. One time we had a big retreat, and I think Devamrita Maharaj and Radhanath Maharaj were here at the same time for, a retreat at Gita Nagari. And I used to stay upstairs in the ashram at that time on the 3rd floor. And one evening I came from the barn, probably at 11 o'clock at night, and across the hallway there was a group of, men staying. There was probably 8 or 10 of them in the room. And when I came up to my room, I, saw down the hallway, the lights were still on in the room, and, there was some talk going on. So, I went and checked in. If anybody needs anything, someone's not well, or, what's going on, anybody, I'm happy to help. And, they welcomed me into the room. No, please come have a seat, Prabhu. I said, okay, well, just tell me what you need. And they said, no, have a seat. We've already been here one night. This is our second night. And they wanted to know, where is the closest mall, shopping mall? I was like, wow. First, I thought they were joking, and they was like, no, we are really serious, we're all from the city, and, this is what we normally do. And, where's the closest mall? So anyway, I, of course, directed them to Walmart Dam, which is about 20 miles away. That was the closest shopping mall. Of course, they probably needed, some toothpaste and, different things as well. But I was just a little shocked that this quiet, peaceful atmosphere, so much of Krishna Katha going on, yeah, still we're not, we are not accustomed to this peace and quiet, especially on a farm. So Prahlad Maharaj's example, he's showing that, Krishna consciousness is not about trying to escape life. It's about, choosing a means to elevating ourselves to becoming more Krishna consciousness, and finding those small gaps as opportune moments for Krishna consciousness, advancing in our own Krishna consciousness. So we understand that this human form of life is a very rare opportunity. There's 8,400,000 species of life, 400,000 humans species, and of course, we're now in this human body where we can inquire, who am I? What is the purpose of life? So some examples of distractions in the Bhagavatam. I was thinking of Bharat Maharaj, that he was such an advanced devotee, very amazing, powerful ruler. But we know the example of what happened at the end of his life. He had become attached to a baby deer that had just lost its mother. And so it's explained that Bharat Maharaj was practically on the level just before prema, but very, very advanced devotee. Still, somehow or the other, he had become bewildered, neglected his puja, and became completely attached to a deer, resulting that all of that austerities he had performed in that lifetime, so much of austerities, advancing in his Krishna consciousness, still just for that short while that he had come into contact with the deer, he had become so attached, and as a result had become a deer in his next life. There's the example of Rishabdev. Of course, he had sons who were being trained, and his message was very, very clear that human life is not for sense gratification. So we see in the 5th canto, also in the 5th chapter, he is speaking to his sons and instructing them. This human form of life is not meant for working hard for sense gratification, just like the dogs and hogs. Let's read that quick purport. Prabhupada is saying, it is significant in this verse that the government and the natural guardian, the father, should educate subordinates and raise them to Krishna consciousness. Devoid of Krishna consciousness, every living entity, every living being suffers in the cycle of birth and death perpetually. To relieve them from this bondage and enable them to become blissful and happy, Bhakti Yoga should be taught. A foolish civilization neglects to teach people how to rise to the platform of Bhakti Yoga. Without Krishna consciousness, a person is no better than a hog or dog. The instructions of Rishabdev are very essential at this present moment. People are being educated and trained to work very hard for sense gratification, and there is no sublime aim in life. A man travels to earn his livelihood, leaving home early in the morning, catching a local train, and being packed in a compartment. He has to stand for an hour or two in order to reach his place of business. Then again, he takes a bus to get to his office. At the office, he works hard from 9 to 5. Then he takes 2 or 3 hours to return home. After eating, he has sex and goes to sleep. For all this hardship, his only happiness is the little sex. Rishabdev clearly states that human life is not meant for this kind of existence, which is enjoyed even by the hogs and dogs. Indeed, dogs and hogs do not have to work so hard for sex. A human being should try to live in a different way and should not try to imitate the dogs and hogs. The alternative is mentioned. Human life is meant for tapasya, austerity, and penance. By tapasya, one can get out of the material clutches. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, devotional service, his happiness is guaranteed eternally. By taking to bhakti yoga, devotional service, one's existence is purified. The living entity is seeking happiness life after life, but he can make a solution to all his problems simply by practicing bhakti yoga. Then he immediately becomes eligible to return home back to Godhead. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evam Yo Veti Tatvataha Tyaktva Deham Punar Janma Naiti Mameti So Arjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So, Prabhupada just summarizes the sum and substance of our life in this nice purport. Of course, there's thousands of these nice purports in Prabhupada's books. So any one of them can have the same effect. Same message is there. Yesterday, after Harichakra Prabhu gave class, we were quickly having a discussion about, the businessman. And of course, in business, you're allowed to make a profit. Otherwise, it's not business. But then the question came up that how much profit should one make? And of course, if you are making a profit, then what percentage of the profit is being used for advancing in Krishna consciousness, and what percentage of that profit is used for sense gratification? And so I was asking the question, if I just take 1% for my sense gratification, considering society today, the material world, there's so many allurements, so many, things that can be done today. So, I want to use 99% in Krishna service, 99% of my salary. Of course, there's maintenance, you can say 50% for maintenance. Then, savings, there's this nice formula the Swamis have given of, how everything should be utilized. But I just want to use 1% for me. After all, I work so hard, day and night, trying to maintain my family. 1%, okay, 0.5% for my sense gratification. Is that okay? And I don't know if we came to a conclusion, but nevertheless, I'm interested to hear devotees' thoughts on that one too. So try not to waste any moments, because we understand that, Maya's, Prabhupada always said, Maya's waiting around the corner. And, there's that famous quote he said, my disciples are not sufficiently afraid of Maya. Here I am praying every day not to fall down. But, these disciples seem to think, they're so advanced that they will not fall down. Not afraid of Maya, but we know Maya's waiting around the corner. Maya knows our weaknesses. Maya knows our attachments, our allurements, what makes us so-called happy in the material world. She's not interested in giving us Krishna prema. By no means. That's not her service. So in this light, we see Prahlad Maharaj setting the example for all children. And, we see as even devotee children sometimes, you get the naughty ones, you get the ones that well-behaved, choosing Krishna consciousness, choosing to learn, to play instruments, choosing to learn to sing. Yesterday we had a guest, or the last 2 days weekend, we had a guest that came with their 6-month-old baby. And I never heard this baby cry once. This baby was just completely peaceful, absorbing his surroundings. There is these amazing souls taking birth as well in the movement. So, that's all I have for today. Any comments, questions, corrections, edits?
Hare Krishna. Good morning, Dhruva. Thank you so much for your class. I'm grateful that you weren't interrupted more. Sometimes it seems to be nonstop for you. So I'm really grateful you were able to be with us and give us your attention. I was thinking through this while we've been talking since we started this chapter about children. And I keep hearing people say Prahlad Maharaj was only 5. He was only 5. And thinking about if you've been around 5-year-olds, only 5 is an interesting saying. 5-year-olds have such a singleness of purpose. They are so focused. I'm thinking also about names and what they mean. And Prahlad, great joy, great happiness. And he demonstrated serenity and happiness in this crazy environment where most of us would just be like, I give up, whatever you want. I'll do it. Just please let the torture stop, and he just kept demonstrating this great joy and happiness. And I was thinking about in Christian tradition, there was a point when these little children wanted to come and talk to Jesus, to the prophet, and like the grown, the sages were like, hey, get the kids out of here. These kids around here, what are they? And he said, no. Let them come. And then he said, look at them, the zeal. And they just came and they just loved him. They just wanted to be around him. And he said, if you can't become like that about service and about God, you're never going to make it. Like, you're just not going to make it. So I like to watch children and see, and don't discourage children. I live down the street from my 5-year-old grandson, and his name is Ezra. And in Christian tradition, that means either God helps or the helper. And he is. His propensity, he'll come here, I'm mopping one, he'll say, let me help. And he gets a little mop and he's helping. I'm just doing the kitchen. He goes, oh, let's go do this room. I'm like, what? But I don't go like, nah, I just want to do the kitchen. I'm like, okay, well, let's do it. And then I make sure to talk to him about these things. They're little, they absorb it. You can just tell them the simplest story about Krishna, simplest story about Vrindavan, and they're just, really? They just suck it up. And I think that we should also think that way about neophyte devotees. In a way, they're also like children. And we talk about it, they come with a joy and with a zeal, and we shouldn't tamp that down. We should encourage it. Tell them, speak Krishna Katha in simple ways all the time with new devotees. That's the kind of love I get from the Gita Nagari family, and I've gotten. And you'd be amazed. You'd be amazed how that travels with you. The simplest things that we do. One of my godbrothers that used to live there, Venu Majoria, took me once to meet the cows, all the girls. I still call them that because he did. And he knew everyone by name. And he said, now she's going to do this. And it just gave me such a different experience of the cows that I still hold that in my heart. And in texting with him recently, I told him that. I said, every time I'm there and I see the girls, I think of that experience and I think of them so differently. So we need to do that, and also maintain the zeal of a 5-year-old if you can. If you're around any sport, yeah, they have their propensity. Some are naughty, but they all have that singleness of purpose if you channel it correctly. And I think that we should try also to learn from them and learn from anyone if you're willing. And the way that they want to serve, to have that zeal and that open heart. Isn't that fantastic? So thank you for your class this morning and for speaking so nicely about Prahlad and about how he used his time, just, joyfully and always looking for a way to serve Krishna. Haribol.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mata. Yes, of course, we know from the Bhagavatam also that, kids even listen within the womb. So even just, hearing these stories from the Bhagavatam, even though they might seem like just some story that, could be true, could not be true, still we recognize and, have faith that when we hear this transcendental subject matter, it penetrates the layers of conditioning and, is able to go straight to the heart. So in this way, we want to take advantage, of this spiritual subject matter. Hearing the name, form, qualities, pastimes of the Supreme Lord is, what the spiritual living entity is all about. We've just been deprived of that for so long, so many lifetimes and lifetimes, that we've become conditioned, thinking that hearing this name, form, qualities of the Supreme Lord is unnatural, but actually that is our natural condition. We've just forgotten. So we want to revive that. And yes, thank you for sharing that these, so-called children, neophyte devotees, all need that. And if we can, package it in such a way that, it becomes a fun thing also at the same time, then they're able to absorb so much more, especially, seeing that they're not accumulating karma at that age, it becomes a little easier to penetrate. Thank you. Anyone else? Comments, questions? Sharing 1% sense gratification.
Hare Krishna, Dhruva Prabhu. Thank you for your class. You've got me thinking about the practical use of our time. Our time, of course, is very precious. I was speaking about this the other day, that time is the most precious commodity. It's limited, and once it's gone, there's nothing you can do to bring it back. No amount of money can buy you even one moment of time. So very, very precious, nothing more precious than time. With time, we can do so much in Krishna consciousness. And so it's a great shame, tragic actually, when that time is wasted uselessly. I did a little quick math. If hypothetically we waste maybe 30 minutes out of a day scrolling social media or looking at the news or some useless clickbait or, otherwise wasting time on a phone, that 30 minutes per day, if hypothetically, we'll say a 25-year-old person, and assuming they live to maybe 70 or 75 years, they will have wasted more than one full year, will have been uselessly wasted if they just spend 30 minutes a day doing some nonsense on their phone. And it's not uncommon for people to spend at least 30 minutes a day in some useless activity. But how how valuable would that time be? And that year, that's just a linear block of time, but in the real world, our time doesn't go 24 hours. A large percentage of our time is spent sleeping, so our actual usable time is less. So the time wait I don't know, would be more like I think it's 1.6 years of waking life or something like that. And anyway, at the time of death, a person um, typically will lament the time that they have wasted in their life. They when they realize that their time is up, there is no time left. Their youth is used up, and they're now out of time. Death is imminent. They wish that they had more time. They realize, my gosh, I've got so many loose ends I need to tie up. I'm not ready to die. Devotees will often think, I need more time for hearing and chanting. Um, Other people will just want more time to try to continue enjoying life, or to finish what they've started. But um, everybody wishes they had more time. What could you do with a year or more of time if you had that available? Um, every little bit counts quite a bit. So um, something to think about. Trying to utilize every waking moment to our best advantage is intelligent and reasonable, and something to aspire for. Um, Advanced devotees don't waste a moment. Um, Srila Prabhupada had if you spent time around him, you would see that first of all, not a moment of his time was ever wasted, and not only that, he had a great sense of urgency to utilize every moment as efficiently as possible in devotional service. He couldn't bear to see anything wasted. He was very frugal with everything, and especially with time. He really understood the value of even a moment. I saw that I had an opportunity to spend some time around Bhakti Tirtha Swami. He also had that mood of urgency about him. Um, didn't like to waste a moment. He was always, um, very anxious to be doing something productive in devotional service. Holiness Devamrita Swami also, he can be impatient at times. He doesn't like to have his time wasted. If you have something to say to him, you would do well to prepare your words in advance to keep them as concise as possible, because he's very busy. He doesn't have time to waste. Um, if you have some business, keep it quick and simple. Get to the point. Don't waste time, because that time is critical. Um, yeah, it's important to have a good sense of the value of time. And we begin our lives usually with no sense of that whatsoever. Um, if we're fortunate, it dawns on us later in life at some point or other, or it's taught to us. Um, but in youth, we have no such sense, and we feel like we're going to live forever. Seems like time goes on forever. Time seems to stand still. I remember in my youth that a summer day just seemed to go on forever. It would just go on and on and on and on, and it never seemed to end. Now, now it seems like time flies. The days fly by. I can almost see the sun rising and setting. It just flies over my head. It's amazing. The hours fly by so quickly. They say as you get older, time speeds up. Um, you go over the hill and on your way down the far side, you pick up speed. That certainly seems to be the case. Time passes much more quickly. Time actually is adjustable, by the way. It's not fixed, and under various circumstances, it's adjusted. Anyway, those are some of my thoughts.
Thank you so much. Yes. So, when we become devotees, we start considering more so how do we use our time. So, good points. But here's the saying, free time is not neutral. It either pulls us deeper into illusion or it lifts us toward liberation. So we should consider time very, very carefully. It's not neutral. It's going to do one of two things. So we can't classify it as neutral. Thank you. We saw the example of Parikshat Maharaj when death came. That is not going to wait but 7 days to live. What are you going to do with the time? Am I going to choose to gratify my senses or hear Srimad Bhagavatam? We're going to make the choice like Parikshat Maharaj. What's this other? Nobody wants to talk about 1% of my income for me and my sense gratification. That's Rishabdev. That's Zoom. Okay, if there's no more points on time, then we'll end here. Thank you very much, devotees. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Go Pramanande, Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Hari Hari Bol. I'll turn on the other computer. Wait one moment, please.